The fairy tale love story that once made fans swoon is now hanging by a thread. Yandy and Mendeecees, one of Love and Hip Hop's most iconic couples, are facing a full-blown relationship meltdown. Explosive arguments, painful confessions, and shocking accusations have left their marriage teetering on the edge. What really pushed them to this breaking point? And can they survive it? The tension between Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris has been simmering for months. But no one expected it to explode this way. Once considered the power couple of Love and Hip Hop, their love story was the kind of drama-fueled romance that fans rooted for through legal troubles, long-distance struggles, and Mendeecees' prison sentence. But now everything they've built is on the verge of crumbling, and the fallout is unfolding in front of millions. It all started with rumors from insiders, claiming that Yandy had grown distant, emotionally checked out, and exhausted from holding their relationship together on her own. For years, she was the rock while Mendeecees served time, raising their children and keeping their family afloat. But those close to her say the weight of it all has started to crack her once steady foundation. Friends have quietly admitted that Yandy has been confiding in them about feeling unappreciated and unseen. Behind the scenes, Mendeecees allegedly hasn't been making things easier. After his release, there was an expectation that he would step back into the role of the family man he once was. But according to production insiders, that transition hasn't gone smoothly. He's reportedly been more focused on rebuilding his own brand, spending long nights away from home, and leaving Yandy to manage the household solo. That disconnect has been eating away at Yandy's trust. In one recent scene that was never supposed to make it to air, producers allegedly caught an off-mic argument between the two, where Yandy accused Mendeecees of choosing the streets over his family again, while the footage was cut. Crew members leaked that the fight was intense, full of shouting, tears, and Yandy storming out of the set. Social media has also played a role in fueling this implosion. Fans have noticed that Yandy hasn't been posting photos with Mendeecees as frequently as she once did. The couple, who used to flood timelines with matching outfits and family moments, have now gone eerily quiet online. Meanwhile, Mendeecees has been spotted liking suspiciously flirtatious comments from women on Instagram, which hasn't gone unnoticed by the public or by Yandy. In one shocking moment during a recent reunion taping, host Mona Scott-Young even confronted Mendeecees directly about the gossip swirling around his DMs, while Mendeecees brushed it off, saying people are blowing it out of proportion. Yandy's face told a different story. She looked crushed, silently blinking back tears as the audience gasped. For the first time, fans saw the cracks in her arm or the pain behind her perfectly composed image. And things only spiraled further from there, according to insiders. Yandy has started spending more time apart from Mendeecees, often traveling for business and staying away longer than scheduled. Some of her castmates have privately expressed concern, saying she seems emotionally withdrawn and not herself lately. Even her closest friends on the show, like Candy and Rashida, have noticed her pulling away. One source claimed she's acting like someone who's already preparing for life without him. Meanwhile, Mendeecees has been telling a very different story to his friends. He's reportedly been venting that Yandy has changed, claiming she's become cold and distant since her businesses blew up. He allegedly believes fame and money have shifted her priorities, and he's been complaining that she treats him more like a business partner than a husband. This war of perspectives has left them locked in a vicious cycle of blame. Yandy feels abandoned and unappreciated. Mendeecees feels neglected and disrespected. And instead of working through it, they've been airing their pain in subtle jabs on camera, which producers have eagerly eaten up for ratings. One particularly brutal moment happened during a dinner scene that was supposed to be a lighthearted cast gathering, when someone jokingly asked Yandy and Mendeecees when they were planning to renew their vows. Yandy visibly stiffened and replied, "You've got to be on the same page for that." The table went silent. Mendeecees gave a tight smile and muttered, "We are just not reading the same book." The tension was electric. Even the other cast members looked uncomfortable. What was meant to be a fun moment turned into a raw, unfiltered glimpse at a marriage on the Brink producers have reportedly been pushing for the couple to do joint therapy sessions on camera storyline that could potentially save both their marriage and the show's ratings. But sources say Yandy has been resisting, claiming that their problems are too real to turn into entertainment. Mendeecees, on the other hand, is allegedly open to the idea, hoping it might show the world he's trying to fix things. The saddest part of all of this is how their children are getting caught in the middle. Yandy has been fiercely protective of them, refusing to let their family drama spill too far into the public eye. But as the tension grows harder to hide, even the kids have started noticing the distance between their parents. Yandy reportedly broke down in tears off camera recently, confessing to a friend that she fears what a separation would do to them. Despite the chaos, some insiders still believe there's hope. They say Yandy and Mendeecees have been through too much together to give up now, and that deep down, they still love each other. But love alone may not be enough this time. Their relationship is at a crossroads, and both of them will have to decide if they're willing to fight for a tour finally let go. What was once one of Love and hip-hop's strongest couples is now hanging on by a thread. And the world is watching to see which way they'll fall. If part 1 showed the cracks forming in Yandy and Mendeecees' marriage, part 2 is where those cracks shatter into pieces right in front of the cameras, the cast, and millions of stunned viewers. What began as whispers behind the scenes has now erupted into a full-blown public war. And Love and hip-hop fans are seeing a side of this couple they never imagined existed. It all came to a head during what producers thought would be a routine couples retreat episode. The idea was simple: bring the couples to a luxurious resort, strip away the distractions, and force them to focus on each other. But instead of healing their wounds, the retreat tore them wider open. From the moment Yandy and Mendeecees arrived, the tension was suffocating. They barely spoke to each other, walking into the villa like strangers, while the other couples joked, laughed, and sipped cocktails. Yandy sat stiffly at the edge of a lounge chair, scrolling her phone, while Mendeecees stood off to the side with his arms crossed, scanning the scene. The vibe was icy and everyone noticed. Producers decided to break the ice with a trust-building exercise. Each partner had to write down 3 things they loved about their partner and 3 things they wanted to improve. Every other couple smiled through the awkward vulnerability. But when it was Yandy and Mendeecees' turn, the air turned razor-sharp. Yandy started off gently, saying she admired his resilience and his loyalty to his children. But when it came time to name what she wanted to improve, her tone shifted. "I need you to be present," she said, voice trembling but firm. "I need you to actually show up for this family, not just physically, but emotionally. Because right now I feel like I'm doing this alone." Mendeecees' jaw clenched. He smirked, the kind of smirk that hides fury. "You've been acting like you don't even want me here," he shot back. "Every time I try, you push me away. You want me to be perfect, but you treat me like I'm invisible." The room fell silent. What was meant to be a healing exercise spiraled into a public confrontation. Yandy's voice cracked as she said, "I held this family down while you were gone. I was your biggest supporter, your ride or die. And now you're back, and it's like you don't even see me anymore." Mendeecees glared. "You don't see me either. All you see is what I'm not doing. Not once do you say you're proud of me for how far I've come. It's never enough for you." The argument escalated fast. Yandy's eyes filled with tears while Mendeecees' voice grew louder, echoing through the villa. Castmates tried to intervene, but the producers signaled for cameras to keep rolling. This was television gold, but real-life heartbreak. Later that night, Yandy locked herself in her suite while Mendeecees stormed out of the resort entirely. He was spotted hours later in the city, photographed with a group of old friends, one of whom just happened to be an ex-sling. The photos hit social media within hours, setting the internet ablaze. Fans accused him of disrespecting his marriage while Yandy was hurting. Others claimed Yandy had pushed him away. Either way, the retreat became a scandal overnight. When production resumed the next morning, Yandy was furious. She refused to film with Mendeecees, threatening to leave the retreat early. "I'm not going to sit here and be embarrassed while he runs around like he's single," she told producers off camera, according to a leaked report. The cast was split down the middle. Some sided with Yandy, saying she deserved better after everything she'd sacrificed. Others defended Mendeecees, insisting he was just blowing off steam and didn't actually cross any lines. The drama created a massive rift, turning what was meant to be a couple's retreat into a battlefield of alliances. The breaking point came during the group dinner that night. Yandy finally showed up, looking composed but visibly distant, wearing a sleek black dress that screamed power and pain all at once. Mendeecees walked in late, acting like nothing had happened as they sat at opposite ends of the table. Castmate Rashida gently tried to encourage them to talk things out. "Y'all love each other. Don't let this break you," she said softly. But Yandy's response cut like a blade. "Love isn't enough when you feel like you're in this marriage alone," she said, staring down at her plate. Mendeecees snapped. "You're not alone. I'm here. I've always been here. You just stopped looking at me like your man and started looking at me like one of your employees." The words hung in the air. The table went silent. Yandy slowly raised her eyes, voice icy and calm. "Maybe because sometimes it feels like you're just clocking in and out of this marriage." The tension was unbearable. Castmates exchanged nervous glances as the two locked eyes in a silent standoff. Finally, Mendeecees shoved back his chair, muttered, "I'm done," and walked out. The cameras followed him as he disappeared into the night. Yandy stayed behind, tears silently streaming down her face. She whispered to Rashida, "I can't keep fighting for someone who won't fight for me." That raw moment sent shockwaves through the fan base. Social media exploded, with hashtags like hashtag Team Yandy and hashtag Pray for Mendeecees trending simultaneously. Viewers debated who was really to blame. Some said Yandy had outgrown him and was emotionally checked out. Others claimed Mendeecees couldn't handle a strong woman who had become more successful in his absence. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, producers scrambled to keep them from quitting the show altogether. Contracts, brand deals, and entire storyline arcs depended on them staying. Rumors swirled that VH1 offered the couple a bonus payout if they agreed to do on-camera therapy sessions to save their marriage and save the season. Yandy reportedly refused at first, saying their issues were too personal. But as ratings for their episodes skyrocketed, the pressure only grew. Mendeecees, desperate to repair his image, allegedly begged her to at least try the therapy route by the end of the retreat. They were living in separate suites, not speaking unless cameras were rolling. The once glamorous couple who once symbolized loyalty had become a portrait of heartbreak and resentment. Even the crew admitted privately they weren't sure if Yandy and Mendeecees would survive this season or this marriage, as they packed their bags to leave. Producers caught one last chilling exchange on a hot mic. Yandy told Mendeecees, "We can't keep pretending for them if we're breaking for real." And Mendeecees quietly replied, "Maybe we already broke." The couple's retreat had ended in disaster, and Yandy and Mendeecees returned home like two strangers living under the same roof. The tension between them was no longer a quiet undercurrent, was heavy, suffocating, and impossible to ignore. What used to be a warm home now felt cold and unfamiliar, filled with awkward silences and unspoken resentment. Producers had hoped the retreat would reignite their spark, but instead it left them questioning if they even had one left. And now, the hardest part was about to begin facing their children, their families, and the public fallout from their crumbling marriage. The morning after their return, Yandy sat alone in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through endless social media posts dissecting their drama. Fans were relentless, speculating about divorce, infidelity, and secret separations. Every headline screamed that their relationship was over, and the weight of it all pressed down on her chest like a stone. Mendeecees entered the room quietly, wearing the same blank expression he'd worn for weeks. They exchanged a brief nod, but no words. The silence between them was louder than any argument. Yandy finally broke it. "We can't keep living like this," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "I know." Those two words hit her harder than she expected. They weren't defiant. They were defeated, and that scared her more than any fight ever could. Later that day, they sat down with their children. Conversation Yandy had been dreading. She didn't want to shatter their sense of security, but the kids were old enough to notice something was wrong. They had stopped seeing their parents smile at each other, laugh together, or even sit on the same couch. Yandy knelt in front of them, her voice gentle but steady. "Mommy and Daddy have been having a hard time getting along," she said. "We love you so much, and none of this is your fault. But we might need to spend some time apart to figure things out." Their oldest son's face crumpled. "Are you getting a divorce?" Yandy's heart broke. "We don't know yet," she admitted, her eyes filling with tears. "We're trying to figure out what's best for all of us." Mendeecees finally spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "No matter what happens, we will always be your mom and dad. That will never change." The children cried quietly as Yandy and Mendeecees held them close, their own tears mixing in. It was the first time in weeks they had touched each other, and even that small contact felt foreign. Now, after putting the kids to bed, Yandy retreated to the guest room. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the wall, replaying every moment of their relationship. The early days when they couldn't stay off the phone. The visits during his sentence when she promised to hold it down for him no matter what. The joy of reuniting when he came home. And now, this. A house full of silence and broken promises. She wasn't sure when exactly they had lost each other. Only that they had. Meanwhile, Mendeecees sat alone in the living room, scrolling through old photos on his phone. Pictures of them smiling, holding hands, looking unstoppable. How had they gone from that to this? A part of him wanted to blame the fame, the pressure, the public scrutiny. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. The truth was, they had stopped seeing each other, not as castmates, not as business partners, but as people. They had let resentment replace romance, pride replace communication. And now, they were paying the price the following week. Producers arranged a final on-camera sit-down between Yandy and Mendeecees' last-ditch attempt to save their relationship and the storyline. The atmosphere was tense, the lights glaring down on them like interrogation lamps. Mona Scott Young sat across from them, expression somber. "I've watched you to go through everything: prison, long distance, raising a family, and come out stronger. But this feels different. Are you still fighting for each other, or are you just holding on to something that's already gone? Yandy stared at the floor, silent. Mendeecees spoke first, his voice low. "I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know if she wants me anymore." Yandy finally lifted her head, her eyes shimmering. "I wanted you to fight for me. But every time I needed you, you were somewhere else, mentally, emotionally. And I got tired of begging for the bare minimum. Do you still love me?" He asked quietly. Her answer came like a whisper. "I love what we used to be. I don't know if I love who we are now." The silence that followed was crushing. Even Mona looked heartbroken. Finally, Mendeecees nodded slowly, like he had been expecting it all along. "Maybe we need to let each other go before we destroy what little is left." Tears rolled down Yandy's cheeks as she nodded. "Maybe we do." And just like that, years of love, loyalty, and sacrifice dissolved into quiet acceptance. When the cameras stopped rolling, they walked out separately, not looking back, in the weeks that followed. News outlets confirmed what fans had feared. Yandy and Mendeecees were taking a formal break from their marriage. They issued a joint statement asking for privacy as they focused on their children and their individual healing. The Love and Hip Hop fanbase erupted in shock and heartbreak. Social media flooded with emotional tributes, old clips of their happiest moments, and heartfelt messages begging them to reconcile. But this time, it seemed final. Yandy threw herself into her businesses and activism work, staying busy to keep from breaking down. Mendeecees quietly moved into an apartment nearby so he could still see the kids regularly, despite the pain. Those close to them say there's still love. They're just buried under too much hurt to salvage right now. Whether they will find their way back to each other someday remains uncertain. But for now, their marriage, once one of the strongest on Love and Hip Hop, stands as a bittersweet reminder that even the most powerful love stories can fall apart. And for Yandy and Mendeecees, this may not be the end of their story, but it is undeniably the end of this chapter. This heartbreaking chapter between Yandy and Mendeecees shows just how fragile love can become when communication fades and pride takes its place. Their journey has reminded us that even the strongest couples can struggle behind closed doors. And sometimes love alone isn't enough to keep a marriage together. If you've been following their story, now is the time to let your voice be heard. Do you believe Yandy and Mendeecees can rebuild what they once had? Or is it truly the end of their love story? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This saga is far from over, and the next chapter could change everything.